I started my own business, Chef Danny Bullock Inc. And one of my childhood friends, Jeremy Pargo, is from Chicago native. He played in the NBA and played overseas. He was the first person I called and said, "Hey, I'm not in corporate anymore, but I'm incorporated.
Right.
It would be cool to just get you on camera, doing some dishes, letting people know that I'm athletes, private chef and things
Sure.
like that."
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Scorpion S podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Chef Danny Bullock, international private chef, owner and founder of the Bull Young Bourbon Brand, and if I may be so bold, one of the best dressed men in Chicago. Thanks for coming on the show, Danny.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, let's just jump into it first. Who makes your suits? Because you are looking fly. Every single post I see you on Instagram, I mean, you are head to toe just one of the best looking guys out in the streets.
Thank you, man. I got this from your closet, so I'll give it back when I'm done. But no, that this is like my Al Capone look. Being in Chicago, he was kind of known for the pinstripe look, the rest. But this is made by Eric Knowles from GQ Gentleman, 71st and State on the south side of Chicago. Yeah.
Very nice.
GQ
Well,
Gentleman.
you know how to put together a brand, I'll tell you that. And recently introduced to the Bull Young brand of bourbon, I think is your newest venture. And I want to get into that a little bit later. But what I'd like to do is kind of give the audience an introduction to Chef Danny, where you came from, how you got into cooking, and then we'll get into your latest ventures in a little bit.
Wow. So I was actually born in Rochester, New York.
Okay.
1990, so 34. Show my age a little bit. Then we moved. My father's a pastor. So after he got his degree and to be a minister in upstate New York, he got called to his first church in Wilmington, Delaware. So we moved to Delaware from 92 to 1995, which we then later moved and relocated to Chicago.
Okay. So you've grown up in Chicago pretty much your entire life.
Correct. I think I would like to say the memories started when I moved to Chicago first.
Right.
No offense to Delaware, but life started, here, the culture, the fashion, the food scene, pretty much everything that kind of resonates with me today came from, Chicago.
Yeah, and Chicago's a city of neighborhoods, a city of communities, and you'll see that throughout the podcast here, our recurring themes are community and service and connection. And I want to hit on a little bit, what community did you grow up into? And then let's get into kind of what communities you're into in your adult life.
We lived in south suburbs, Olympia Fields.
Okay.
So went to O.W. Huth Middle School, which is in Matson, Illinois. Then spent about a week at Ritz Central High School. Then we moved to Delaware. So mainly childhood was in south suburbs. Then I've been in Bronzeville for the last probably 15 years. Yeah.
Okay. I'm also a southwest suburbs guy. I grew up in Oak Forest and also a 1990s guy. So you and I have been swimming in some of the same circles, I think, throughout our lives. And I think we got connected through the cigar scene, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to different like networking groups and communities, aside from like the cigar and food and wine industry, like what are your favorites networking groups or like different places to go to when it comes to those sub communities of your?
So I probably it all depends on I'm kind of seasonal. Mm-hmm. So more summer times I usually like hang out on the Gold Coast at Biggs Cigar Mansion. Good friends of mine that turned into business partners of mine. But I'm a big fan of the Clayton now too.
Okay. So
between the Biggs, the Clayton, and the Embassy, which is a new one in south suburbs in Flossmoor. So I kind of have 7 days out the week, 2 days here, 2 days there, kind of spread it out a little bit.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're visiting a lot of the same places, and I'm sure we got plenty of familiar faces on our different channels. So Absolutely. It'll be really great to have us both reach these new audiences and educate the Scorpions on who you are and why you're a standout guy here in Chicago. So let's jump into kind of the culinary side, because I know that's a very strong foundation for you and how you've got to where you're at. So what got you into cooking in the first place?
You want the real answer, or you want
this is the Spill the Tea podcast. So yeah, we want to see why exactly you got into cooking.
The ladies, man. My mom told me, you can always get a girl if you know how to cook, because they really like that. I'm like, really? She was like, yeah. So I'm a bit of a mama's boy, so I kind of listened to her.
Yeah.
And it worked out, Hey. So once I tried it, I had a crush on a girl, maybe 4th grade, and our parents were cool, so we set up little play dates, and I went and made spaghetti and Caesar salad out the bag type of thing. It was actually kind of bad, but it was like the reaction from her was very still prominent to me today. She was like, "Oh my God, this is so nice." I lit candles, I played music, I did all the stuff I seen on movies, and it worked out. So yeah, that's kind of like the origin of it. Then from then, I also have a music background too.
Okay.
So I started playing drums at a young age. So music has always been in my family. Culinary has always been in my family. Fashion's always been in my family. So I was a drummer first, even before I even started cooking. Then once all my friends got better at music than me, I was like, okay, well, I can't keep up with these guys, man. They've been playing since they were like born. I kind of picked it up around 6th, 7th, 8th grade.
Okay.
So the learning curve, I was kind of a bit behind the 8 ball with them. I was like, yeah, they're going to be professionals at this. I'm not. Then once I realized I'm not going to the NBA either, I was like, all right, I need to do something that's cool where I can have a professional athlete's lifestyle or a drummer's lifestyle, something like that, somewhere I could travel, still express my artistic kind of motivations and things like that. And cooking to me actually came easy. My mother's a great cook. My father's a great cook. And I come from 2 big sides of the family. My dad, he has 8, 9 brothers and sisters. My mom, the same way.
Yeah.
A lot of uncles, a lot of aunts, a lot of big family gatherings where fashion and music and culinary was always on display every day, every week, rather. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a chef. None of my family members were chefs. None of my friends were chefs. So I was like, haha, I can do that. And everyone likes to eat.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So yeah, after high school, graduated in 2008, then came back to Chicago. So I finished high school in Delaware, then came back for college and enrolled in Kendall College.
Okay.
Yep. So graduated 2012, degree in personal chef and catering, because I always knew I wanted to cook for the who's, right? So
yeah.
Kendall was one of, if not the only program in the country to have a concentration or a major on personal chef.
Oh, really?
And catering. So I had all the cooking classes if I was going for my associates or bachelor's in culinary, but they also offered the business classes if I was going to school for business too. So upon graduating from Kendall, I also incorporated my first business because that was in the curriculum too.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to have that business background, especially when you're chasing a passion or a non-traditional career, I'd say. And you brought up a couple good points talking about coming from big families and stuff, and I feel like big families foster a need for not only cooking, but good cooking, because you don't want 9 little kids saying, hey, I got burnt macaroni and cheese. So you kind of learn to probably do the basics pretty well so that you can feed the masses. But also when it comes to large families, it tends to have a lot of that community aspect where you're having the holidays and everybody's over, whether you're watching the game or whatnot. And food is such a connector when it comes to human beings. So I love that you dove into your passion and kind of incorporated your upbringing into this rock star lifestyle that you had a vision for, but also you're providing a service, you're providing value, you're providing love and warmth to so many people that are exposed to you and your passion. So that's amazing that you kind of took the leap and went for it.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the best feeling too. Like something that was a dream when I was, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. I still have that same passion at 34 years old.
Yeah.
Right. So stuff goes by so fast, man. It just felt like the other day I was just wanting to be a chef.
Yeah.
Then I look back, since then it's Food Network. I've been able to travel. I've done, started Bull Young. There's so many things. And it's like, man, I'm really living out my dream. I wrote down on a piece of paper that I actually found in one of my storage, notebooks and things like that. What do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, something that gives me the ability to travel the world and be famous. I don't know, the famous part didn't hit yet, but definitely traveled the world. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, you are an international chef, so let's jump into what countries have you been able to cook in?
So the international, I guess, journey started in Tel Aviv, Israel. I was able to become the team chef, private chef for a few athletes that played for Maccabi Tel Aviv.
So do you just DM athletes and say, hey, do you want to eat better? Or like, how does that come about?
So my last stop in corporate was at a hotel here in Chicago. Don't want to say which hotel for other reasons.
Sure.
I started my own business, Chef Danny Bullock, Inc., and one of my childhood friends, Jeremy Pargo, is from Chicago native. He played in the NBA and played overseas. He was the first person I called and said, hey, I'm not in corporate anymore, but I'm incorporated.
Right.
You know, it would be cool to just get you on camera, doing some dishes, letting people know that I'm athletes, private chef and things like that. He was like, man, I live in Miami though. I was like, okay, that's fine. You mind coming down tomorrow? I was like, and I remember it was like November 11th, cold, freezing, snowing. Went straight to the airport with my knife kit, and I was with him for the next 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so big shout out to Jeremy Pargo. He kind of gave me my start in this personal chef thing. Then from there, I was able to expand the portfolio to Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Bulls players, White Sox players, Bears players, Eddie Jackson from the Bears, DeMarcus Walker from the Bears. Yeah, so it just all kind of started snowballing from there. Then 2017, Jeremy got a call to play for Maccabi Tel Aviv, and he was like, "Hey, man, it's been working. I'm down X amount of pounds. The team is noticing it, and they'll probably hire you as the team chef too." So I was like,
networking, right?
I was like, "Yeah, let's do that." And he was like, "I don't know if you've never been overseas." I said, "I haven't." He said, man, you can travel from Tel Aviv to Paris like we do, Chicago to LA or Chicago to Miami. I said, okay, well, let's do it. So,
I mean, as a chef, for the opportunity to go in France, and I mean, Europe just has so many different culinary experiences and historical value when it comes to cooking and the culinary aspect. I mean, for you, that had to be such a dream come true.
Absolutely. So, Italian's my favorite cuisine. Right, it was just.
I knew I liked you, but now I know why.
I love the culture. I love the cuisine. I just love anything Italian. That's kind of fit my muse a little bit. So I was able to travel to Rome, Sicily, Milan, Barcelona, Athens, Santorini, Paris, London, Egypt, Monaco, Morocco, Barcelona, Cyprus, Jerusalem. And I think that's it.
All right. Well, I mean, it sounds like you got a good sample of Europe. So what's next on the international docket? Where have you not been yet?
So I'm going to Ghana.
Oh, nice.
So it's West Africa in July for my 35th birthday present.
Congrats.
Got to do some cooking out there and possibly few bourbon tastings.
There you go.
I heard they like bourbon in Africa, so we'll see.
So these high profile clients of yours, are they chicken nuggets and mac and cheese kind of people, or are they have a refined palate?
A little bit of both. So that's the beauty of being a personal chef. Some clients may ask for the most Michelin star experience. Some clients may ask you to, hey, we're going on a yacht on an excursion for a month. Can you be the chef? So you kind of got to be ready for everything, but even the most high-end, successful clients still are normal people. So, yes, it's a lot of chicken tenders and french fries, smash burgers, chicken parm. Just like, you want me to make this? And they're like, yeah, I'm actually a real simple eater. So I'm like, or it's more Southern stuff too. So I actually love those clients where like the higher the profile, the simpler the palate.
There's something beautiful about doing the simple dishes well, right?
Correct.
I mean, in COVID, I got into cooking a little bit and just learning how to do the basics, whether it's seasoning your vegetables or heating up the pan to a proper temperature before using it, like just some of these little things that a lot of the audience can take home with them. Do you have any tips like that you can give to the audience that would kind of elevate them from like 0 to 1 in a quick instance?
Do everything the day before.
Okay,
right?
prep.
Prep is 85 to maybe 90% of the battle, right? Because if you know what time people are coming over, how many people are coming over, and what you're cooking, you can do that at least 48 hours before, to the point where all you got to do is put it in the oven, take it out, and serve it, opposed to trying to do everything. Oh my God, people are coming over at 1 o'clock and you're shopping that morning. Yeah. No, I don't even do that.
So part of the profession of being a professional chef is the preparation.
Correct.
And understanding who you're cooking for. Mm-hmm. Not only do you have to have the technical expertise of like executing the dish properly, but the easy stuff, the basic stuff is just setting yourself up for success.
Correct.
Agreed?
Correct. And I say my cooking style is, since I had the ability to and pleasure to work at some Michelin star level establishments where it's 18, 19, 20 different components on one plate, now my style's transitioned to maybe 4 on a plate. And that's the culinary scene is kind of transitioning to more upscale casual than Michelin star formal.
Okay.
So I guess my style is I take an ingredient, figure out the flavor profile and what flavor contrast goes with that texture-wise, and leave it at that. Let the ingredients speak. So high ingredient sourcing and just good technique and keeping it simple. Simple always. Someone told me, keep it simple, stupid.
There you go. Yeah, easy to remember. And we use that in the military all the time because, I mean, you overcomplicate something, mishaps start happening, and it gets a little bit messy when it didn't need to, right?
Yep.
So along those lines, cooking for some of these basketball players or high-profile people, have you ever had like a kitchen mishap where you had to say, sorry, I burnt the steak, or, you know, I dropped the plate, but I'll cook you something else? Like, have there been any kitchen mishaps in front of these celebs?
Not, I would say yes. Well, not to that degree. So I guess my biggest flaw is consistency, right? Mm-hmm. So if I cook a 10 out of 10 dish on Monday, I kind of set the bar kind of high, right? So it's like, now I have to cook 10 out of 10 every day. So some stuff may be better than others, but a client may say, man, some was off today. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, you know, like it's Wednesday. Monday I was probably on fire. You know, I was real locked in. Wednesday, you know, something could have happened prior to me, you know, arriving. You know, different factors that can alter the thing. So I guess if you at this high level, I say the hardest part for me is staying at that high level every single day, right? So you always, you know, certain stuff is going to come out better than others on each day. But when you have these millionaire clients or these athletes, they expect, you know, 10 out of 10 every day.
Yeah, so I mean, they're being held to high standards as a professional athlete or whatever their job is. So mentally, that's where they're at is, of me, I'm expected to perform at my best, so why would I not expect that of other people? Correct.
I always go into it wanting to do 10 out of 10. The effort's still there. The execution may have, you know, taken a turn, but the mentality is always 10 for 10. And usually if you get a client that understands that, they always give you another try. So say if Monday I cooked great, Wednesday not so much, I know the next one has to be right back. So it's just the ups and downs of it, but you always want to stay high though.
Now, what I've learning how to cook some basic dishes is that there are certain skills that you need to keep sharp all the time. And then there's also, again, back to the preparation of like choosing the right ingredients or understanding how to maintain certain ingredients until you need them. Do you teach your audience how to cook, or do you do any cooking classes so that these people can appreciate not only the skills that you've acquired, but also give you kind of a break when something isn't 10 out of 10?
Yeah, so that's actually a good question. So in the process of printing my own cookbook.
Very nice. Congrats.
That here. It's called Rhythm and Bourbon.
Oh, cool.
So it's the dinner party's guide to good vibes when you inviting people over, right? So it's a cocktail book in intro where you get, you know, the old-fashioned recipe, your Manhattan recipe, all the bourbon classics.
Yep.
For single servings or for batch servings as well.
Nice.
So you have your alcohol pretty much taken care of. Then the food size is pretty much all tapas for the most part. You have your snacks and apps. You have large plates, and we have desserts too. So the book also, now the rhythm part is, you're probably asking, like, it's going to come with a playlist attached to it.
See, that's a great idea to put in a cookbook.
So now you literally have everything. You don't, okay, what music am I going to play? You got that. What party punch can I make, whether it be a bourbon punch, a sangria, or a batch made old fashioned or things like that you can prep the day before and just dress it up day of, and you're good to go. So
I love that.
Yeah, Rhythm and Bourbon probably come out, I say about in August, June, because we're going to celebrate the 5th year of Bull Young.
Oh, congrats!
In August.
All right, well,
yes, sir.
Hey, we're gonna put the Chef Danny checklist for the best best cocktails and dinner parties around. So we'll get that in the description. Make sure you pre-order when it's available. So before we transition to the Bull Young, I want to get into that. Back to Chicago and our community. Not only do you cook, but I'm sure you consume food a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Being in a city of this nature. So what are some of the best restaurants that you like to frequent? It doesn't have to be fancy per se, but like, we all have our comfort food places in Chicago, and then we also have our kind of elevated going out with friends places. So what are the places that you frequent?
Man, I'm trying to see how can I not be biased to the people who carry Bull Young. So if I'm in the mood for steak,
starting with the tough one, because we only have about 40 to 50 different great steakhouses in the city.
I would go El Shay.
I've never been.
Heard of it though?
Yeah.
So they do the seafood platter with the fries and all that stuff. Phenomenal restaurant. So I probably frequent there a lot. Any RPM. It's great. Beverages.
That's my favorite steakhouse. Yeah.
Beverages.
It's so hard to get a resi though.
Yeah. I usually eat at the bar. Honestly.
Oh, I have heard that as like a hot tip. If you're trying to get in, you go just sit at the bar.
Yep. Maple and Ash.
It's
always good. Let me see. Let me give you like an old school one. Probably go Gene and Georgetti's still good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you're just shorts and a t-shirt, day off, trying to get a quick meal, you got any comfort food places?
Wishbone.
Okay.
My good friend Tyler, his father owns that place, so they have a southern background, things like that. Great for brunch. Well, not even just brunch, at lunch spot, anything, hangover days for sure. I would say them for comfort food. Then I'm really into like Caribbean food too.
Oh, okay.
So 14 Parish in Hyde Park is good. Probably say them first. 14 Parish for like Jamaican, Caribbean food is good. I'm also a big sushi guy too.
Yeah.
Sushi Sean.
There's a lot of good sushi places here. One of my favorite places that I found, and this was, I would say during the COVID time frame. So there's a CH Distillery, I'm sure you're familiar with, who creates
West Loop.
Distills Jepson's Malort for all the Chicago fans out there. So there was a gentleman who had rented out the back room of the distillery and started his own sushi restaurant.
Omakase.
Yeah, and they, over the last couple of years, they built this into a gorgeous omakase, like a chef's tasting menu of sushi, and they've got dry aged tuna and all these different things that will absolutely blow your mind. So if you, number one, haven't been to CH Distillery to try Malort from the faucet, you gotta go. And if you're looking for a meal, you gotta try Jinsimoto in the back. So take a look at Jinsimoto for some fantastic sushi options.
That's a good pick, man. I didn't know.
Yeah, it's some of these sleeper picks, man. They're kind of hidden, but if you know, you know.
Yeah, it's so many. Astor Club.
They just brought that back recently. Is that right?
Yeah. So that was the Rat Pack, so Frank Sinatra's hangout. Definitely look it up online if you haven't heard of it. Astor Club, they're good friends of mine. They carry Bull Young there. It's a members only type of situation, but sometimes they may open it up for the public for restaurant week or things like that.
Okay. Yep. So let's get into the Bull Young brand and the story, because this is so powerful, not only for you to jump into a market that may seem saturated to connoisseurs. I mean, you go to Benny's and there's only about 1,000 options when it comes to bourbon and scotch.
Correct.
So what drove you to start your own brand?
I was at that point where I was starting to get a lot of buzz around my name from being a chef, and I was asking myself, what's the next move? Right? How can we capitalize on the buzz around me, traveling all over the world, being on the Food Network, all those different accomplishments. So I didn't want to take the risk of opening my own restaurant just because I've opened and closed a lot of other people's restaurants and saw the that back-breaking, like I put my life savings into this and it didn't work. So I was looking for more something low risk, low entry, but has a huge upside and kind of a lane that I could penetrate with, my culinary thing, but also offering or pairing with something else. So I was being overseas. I got really into Scotch, bourbon, whiskey, spirits in general, even different wines and things like that.
Sure.
So had the opportunity to study at the Milk and Honey Distillery in Tel Aviv, which is one of the oldest distilleries. So they gave me a crash course into, bourbon's made from this, because I didn't know. I just like to drink it. So,
right.
I said, so it's only made with corn, barley, and rye. That's it. Then you get into more of the wood, the smoke levels and things like that.
Sure.
But those ingredients very parallel to cooking in the process too.
Yeah.
So distilling is very parallel and compared to if I were making a consommé, a stock, a broth, anything like a soup even.
Interesting.
So I was like, okay. Then they were explaining why this tastes good. Like, well, you have sweet, smoke, vanilla, caramel, citrus. I'm like, yeah, it's the same thing we do in culinary too. So I'm like, so the dots started to connect where I can take the following that I gained from being a chef and say, Bull Young Bourbon by Chef Danny Bullock. And it was like, oh, okay, well, we know him as a chef. Let's try this next thing out.
Yeah.
And it was so it was low entry, low risk, big upside.
Now, starting a brand from scratch, it helps that you have credibility, right? You didn't decide to go launch a car brand as a chef. Like, bourbon makes sense when it comes to the culinary experience. And not only do you have the traditional education and upbringing on how to take raw ingredients and craft it into a beautiful end product.
Correct.
It makes sense that bourbon aligns, and plus your passions, right? Like, people know that you're a cigar guy, you're a well-refined gentleman, and a glass of bourbon or a cocktail just fits perfectly with that brand. So I love that was your next move up. There's a lot of audience members, I'm sure, that think, oh, I would love to start a bourbon brand. Like, that would be so cool. But a lot of us don't have that history or that brand recognition or that credibility that would go with launching a bourbon brand. So I think it makes total sense for you. Now, when did you launch Bull Young? And tell us, like, the process. Like, how do you go, all right, I want to start a brand. What's your first step?
So we launched in August 2020, middle of the pandemic. Well, it was actually the conception of it was the year before.
Sure.
Because that pretty much, it took a year of like licensing and trademarks just to even get to the manufacturing side, which is a whole other story that we'll get into. So, okay, I was like, all right, I want to come out with a whiskey brand. Okay. Google, how do you start a whiskey brand? And it was just like, it's kind of mining through a lot of things. I was like, okay, this ain't what I want. So just on YouTube, it was just bourbon brand.
Yeah.
And from there, it was I think the News Journal, or I forget what TV network, they did an article on how the bourbon business is now booming. Where you don't have to have your own distillery. You can actually do it this way. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So they have this thing, it's called blind labeling or private labeling.
Okay.
Right, where you can get a federal wholesaler's permit, which allows you to hire someone else where you can source the barrels directly from MGP, which made our 4-year, or go into business with another distillery that will co-pack for you.
Okay.
Right? So you use their juice, you use their distillers, you come up with your own blend and barrel picks, put your label on it. Now you got a liquor brand. I was like, okay, I could do that. Opposed to, because my guy, he was like, all right, Danny, you can do this. It's 3 ways you can do this. You can put up $3 million and build your own distillery and do it yourself. I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
Not that you couldn't, you just didn't want to.
You can buy someone else's distillery for $5 million and do it that way. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that either. Or you can just get this license, buy other stuff that's out there on the market, because now these huge distilleries are selling their barrel stocks. Right.
So there's manufacturers, they just have vats full of generic bourbon, I'll say, waiting for someone to put their spin on it. So
Correct.
Do you have to go down to these distilleries and like tell them I like this, but I don't like this, or like how do you create the Bull Young blend? I would say.
So basically, before it gets to bottle, right? So MGP, they have kind of like a menu of different bourbons that they distill yearly, 2-year, 3-year, rise, different mash bills. So after 200 samples, I was like, okay, if I really want something to taste not undeveloped, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because some of my favorites are at that time and still are that I wanted to match Bull Young next to were Makers, Woodford, and Basil Hayden.
Yeah.
So, and Bullet. So if mine could exist within those 4, we were up to something. I said we had something going.
Yeah.
So now I studied, okay, Woodford and Basil, all those bourbons, their minimum barrel age is about 4 years.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, scrap everything. I'm only tasting 4-year and up.
Mm-hmm.
So we set it on 4-year because the distillers were telling me at that year 4, that's when it really starts to develop the flavor of the body.
Yeah, and you really don't see a lot of bourbons on the shelves that are younger than 4 years.
Correct. So I was like, okay, 4-year. That's the sweet spot. Then we can always go up from there. Now we're talking about mash bills. A lot of them are. Now you have rye whiskeys are made just straight with rye, but I like the bourbon. Now bourbon is one of the only federal regulated spirits where you have to make it a certain way to be considered bourbon. Just like tequila can only come from this region in Mexico, Champagne, France, Cognac, France.
Right.
So in America, bourbon has to be aged in the U.S., not in Kentucky. Has to be made with at least 51% corn.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the percentage can be divided into rye and malted barley. It has to be aged in a brand new charred white oak barrel.
Okay.
So once I understood that, I said, okay, cool. Now it's like, okay, let me try a rye whiskey. Whew. Okay. Let me try the ones, the traditional mash bills, where it's some corn, some rye, some barley. Okay, here we go. So we went from, we landed on the 75 corn, 21 rye, 4 malted barley. That was like, okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Then from there, it was just, okay, what proof you want? Our 4-year, we set it on 90 because we didn't want to come out the gate with something too like, whoo, what is Bull Young? It sounds like, a lot. It's real aggressive. So we wanted something that was easily approachable, that could be compared to a Makers, a Bullet, Woodford, and Basil Hayden.
And a 90 proof is such a great entry level bourbon because not only can you drink it straight for the aficionados out there, put it on ice, you can make cocktails with it, and it's very versatile. So for you to choose that lane, I think is a smart business move to appeal to the masses. And it's very tough to go from 0 to where you're at now when it comes to creating a brand. So if you come out of the gate with 110 proof bourbon and it's like, oh yeah, this is raging Bull Young, like I'm not touching that anymore.
Exactly.
So I think you made the right decision there.
Right, because a lot of, I guess, my followers, I wouldn't say they didn't drink bourbon, but they're on that entry level, like that 90 proof or something, maybe a little bit less. So that was definitely, and like I said, I do this for the women, man. So you got to have something, that's strong enough for a man to feel like a man, but enough for a lady to enjoy too. So I was like, yeah, man, I always consider the women, because there's a lot of women that can drink me under the table too.
Oh yeah, I mean,
so
the Scorpion Nest, we've been doing pairing events with cigars and different networking events, and there's a couple groups, the Broadleaf Broads and some other gals out there, and I was like, wow, you guys really know your stuff.
Yep.
So don't judge a book by its cover, and put something out there that everyone can enjoy. I think you're going to see massive success.
Absolutely.
So we got the Bull Young out the gate. You tried 200 samples. I'm sure your tongue was on fire after all of those samples. I mean, hopefully they gave you some water, let you take some breaks. But
it was 200 spread over like 6 months. Yeah. So
but still a lot. We got the mash bill now with the senior. Did you literally just let it age longer, or is there a different mash bill? Or tell me about the new release.
So the senior, same mash bill as the premium, but we did a collaboration in partnership with Bardstown Bourbon Company. So now it's official Kentucky straight bourbon. So people can get off me about, oh, it's not bourbon. I was like, okay, well, now it is, So
they're gonna tell the chef what it is and what it isn't. It's like, okay.
So the senior is the big brother to the younger brother, right? So I have an older brother, so this one was kind of, I wouldn't say inspired by him, but it gave the storyline, right? So you got the 4-year represents me, then the senior represents my older brother, right? So same mash bill, 75 corn, 21 rye, 4 malted barley, but this one's age 6 years instead of 4. My brother's 2 years older than me, and the proof on this one's actually 115 proof.
Okay.
So we wanted to do cask strength, but I was like, once again, thinking about the consumer, like, hey guys, like 126 may be a little, volcanic. So let's bring it down. And with Bardstown juice, the less we diluted it, the more the flavor stood out. With MGP's juice, the more water we added to it, the better. It was kind of like, it was weird. Same mash bill, but you can tell the difference, obviously, in the color and the aging. The premium was a level 2 char, meaning we set it on fire for about the barrels before we put the white dog inside. And the senior is a level 3.
Okay.
So you can tell the difference in, how the aging, the char levels on the barrels. And yeah, when you get in trouble, you get beat up, call your big brother.
There you go.
Help you out. So that's what the senior is. So
see, so much of building a brand and sales is storytelling, and the fact that you put enough time into the similarities and the anecdotes that you can attribute to not only the journey but the brand is very inspiring. It's something that a lot of consumers, I believe, can relate to, and they're going to attach themselves to this brand because it's like, wow, once you hear that story once, you're like, it's so inspiring. I'm one of 5, so thinking about the pecking order with your siblings and stuff, and like attributing that to the growth of this bourbon, I think is so creative.
Yeah, and people ask me, how did I come up with the name? So Bullock is my last name. It means, translated, a young bull. So all the Bullock males in my family, their nicknames were Bull.
Okay.
Right. So at the time when I started the company, I was the youngest in my immediate family. Now my son is the youngest bull. So premium represents me. Senior is my brother. The 8-year, which we have coming within the next year, that will be the Bull Young Legend. That's going to represent my dad. Then the 10-year would be Bull Young Prime for my grandfather.
Wow. That's I'm super excited for your journey. I mean, you've got all this planned out, and the waiting game is probably the worst part, right? You're just waiting for this bourbon to age properly so it fits your high standards, and once it hits the market, I mean, I'm sure it's going to take off.
For sure. And linking up with Bardstown, they have acres of different bourbon houses of barrels, over 100,000 barrel picks that we can pick from. So it won't be a shortage of bourbon.
So the senior, it's 110 proof, right?
115.
Okay, so 115. So for those of you that can't find some of the BTAC collection, whether it's Stag Junior, I guess they call it just Stag now. I mean, this is pretty much everywhere you can buy bourbon. Is that right?
Correct.
So accessible. What's the price point on these guys?
So the premium at liquor stores, online. We ship online as well. Probably retails about $59.99. Then the senior is about $79.99.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're competitive. It's not it's not a new brand that's overpriced. I think we've all seen that in the market in bourbon of people just price increases, and kind of push people out of the market a little bit. So if you're looking for this new delicious bourbon at a reasonable price, Bull Young, find it at Benny's, anywhere you can buy.
Yeah, we just signed the Benny's deal, so probably February.
Okay.
But bullyoungbourbon.com, A&S Beverages in the city, they have 3 locations. They're our highest selling retail location. Beverages, a few other places, but mainly those 2. Then Benny's is coming in February.
So on this journey of building a bourbon brand, did you have any hiccups or any obstacles you had to overcome where you're like, I don't know if this is going to go down, like I've never done this before?
Oh, sure. Bourbon is a very gate-kept industry if you're not of some type of lineage, right?
Sure.
So I and I told you I had 200 samples, but I probably made 500 phone calls to other distilleries.
Oh, wow.
Hey, I want to buy your bourbon and call up mine. They're like, no. So that was a hiccup, just even trying to find somewhere to source from.
Sure.
Because a lot of people, when I would do my kind of elevator pitch about the brand, they view me as competition. So I was like, okay, I get it. They don't want to make more of my stuff than their own stuff. Because some smaller distilleries or intermediate distilleries, they can only fit their capacity for, their customers. Mm-hmm. So it made sense. So now my thinking was like, okay, what bigger colossal distilleries that are doing 50,000, 100,000 barrels that wouldn't mind taking on a, independent, brand like mine.
A Young Bull, perhaps?
Correct. So, so we found MGP, linked up with a fellow named Thomas Bell. He's now retired, and he was there for 40 years, and that's the guy you want to see when you want to get into the bourbon brand. So I was his last client before he retired.
Good timing.
And, we, after all the licensing got cleared, I said, all right, I'll take 1 barrel. He was like, Danny, we do, our minimum purchase is 4. I'm like, so now I'm all tapped in. I spent literally every dime, a loan here, a loan there, my parents, everything tapped in that was the last thing to go into production. He was like, you know what? I'm retiring soon. I've never done this in my 35 or my 30 plus. I've never sold just 1 barrel in my whole life. Why not?
Really?
And he did. So that 1 barrel, we were able to manufacture our first 50 cases. Sold those in about 2 hours, all 50 cases.
That's fast.
Then I went back and say about 2 weeks, and I bought the remaining.
It was like, all right. I'll get the last.
Yeah, because it was like and that's the thing in business. Always be prepared to pitch something in 30 seconds because you never know who can say yes, who can say no. So without him, that was the last door. Honestly, if he didn't say, okay, I'll sell you, this 1 barrel.
Yeah.
That would have put because I had a production schedule, and they were expecting, and so I had glass, I had labels, I had corks. They just needed the bourbon, and I was like, yeah, I'll be back next week with. And when he told me, he said, oh, the minimum purchase you got to buy 4. I was like, no, I didn't know who to call else, and he was like, you know what? It sounds like this is going to be good, and I'm out of here anyways.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, and I showed him all our pre-orders that would almost like collateral.
Yeah.
Sold out. I did a big launch party, sold them all on one day. And like I said, went and visited him on his last day of work and bought the rest. So
I'm having flashbacks to all the Shark Tank episodes I've watched in the past. And there's so many business aspects that I'm sure people aren't thinking of when it comes to launching the brand. So like, did you have business partners? Did you have to raise funds? Did you have to get a loan to cover the rest of these barrels?
A lot of it was my salary saved up from overseas.
Okay.
And then I brought in a few angel investors to kind of bring it home.
Sure.
So it was majority came from me, then friends and family to help out. Then from there, then we got rolling. So the money probably wasn't an issue. It was just the getting in the business type of thing. Like I said, a lot of people said no. The waiting of, applying for this license, because you need a state license and a federal license in every state that you're distributed into. So I was like, man, so I guess license processing took a year before I even could bottle anything. But while that was kind of working, and my advice to anybody that's building a brand is, while this is working, work on something else. So before I even had an official bottle of Bull Young, I ran around town with a prototype bottle.
Okay.
This is what it's going to look like.
Sure.
So we shot content. I did, taste things with just the samples, so I was building the mystique, or the almost like a movie trailer.
Yeah.
While this is working, I can do this. And that ended up, I started cooking with it on live. Like, Bull Young coming soon. So all these things with the anticipation that it will come. And, my advice to entrepreneurs is don't get too locked in on a date. Like, and that's what I did. I said, man, I wanted it to come out in 2019 because I would have been the youngest ever to do this.
Oh,
I did this before I was 30.
Yep.
Michael Jordan had this. You know what I'm saying? It was just all these things before 30. that I wanted to do, and it just wasn't my time. Then COVID happened, and it actually ended up being an advantage. Everyone was home.
I was gonna say we talked about that on our previous episode of how everyone's locked in and there are only a few things to do when you're sitting at home and can't go anywhere.
And drink.
So exactly.
Work from home. So I was like, now I had everyone's attention span to be even open to consider a new bourbon. Because people are very stubborn with their bourbon.
Oh yeah.
I drink Macallan 12. That's it. I drink Johnny Walker Black. That's it. I drink, and I was like, okay, well, now that people are at home, they're opening their collections, just trying new stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to kind of, grab some
like market share.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I mean, blessing in disguise, right? Like people are getting bored with what's on their shelves at home. So all right, let me try something new. Who do I know? Let's talk to somebody. Social media had to be big because that's how you communicated when you're in lockdown. So you're sending DMs and you're putting posts on this is what I'm cooking up. So hindsight 2020, I'm sure it helped the brand kind of get off that that diving board platform. And now it's kind of, I assume it's taken off, right? Like you're in Benny's, one of the biggest distributors in the Midwest, if not the nation. I don't know if they have them outside the Midwest, but I mean, just to be there, what's the saying? If you can't find it at Benny's, it's not worth drinking.
That's what I've been hearing for the last 4 years. So, like I said, things take time. And like I said, things are going to happen when they're supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I think if I would have put me in Benny's in my first 2 years, it wouldn't be as popular. It would probably just got lost in the shelves. Right? I didn't have the marketing dollars or the marketing concepts that I do now to even support the brand. So it's just been me doing a lot of in-stores, and the mystique around the brand wouldn't be as popular as it is now.
Yeah.
So like I said, so having 4 years into it, going into my 5th year, it's perfect to put in Benny's now because, I have sales reports from smaller liquor stores that I can say, hey, I want it at this price because it's been selling at this price. We sell X amount of cases, da-da-da-da.
So the data doesn't lie.
Exactly.
And whether it's relationships or a brand or a new product, I think you hit on it perfectly. Timing matters. Whether we know what the grand scheme is or not, it's going to play out the way it's supposed to, and just have faith that everything's going to work out in your favor. So
whenever things are going to happen, that's me as I get older in business and as a person.
Yeah,
just it's going to happen when it's going to happen. So don't don't kind of press the issue too much. Just because 9 times out of 10, when it happens, perfect.
So we know we have a couple lineups here of delicious bourbon. What do you like to pair it with, food-wise?
Food-wise, obviously barbecue.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything smoked. So, like the bourbon itself is high in corn. So anything with corn, right? So you got your elotes, your corn chowders, your cream corns, even. That's always like a go-to in pretty much any season. Then you have the barley aspect, so you can do a barley risotto, even the rye. It has that hops type of thing, so they're good in brines. So we brine the turkey in the bourbon.
That's interesting.
Overnight, so yeah, like a bourbon brine, turkey, citrus, and things like that. Pretty much everything, man. Honestly.
Now, are you drinking it straight when you're cooking, or are you making a cocktail, or how are you preparing?
Depends on the day.
Okay.
So I enjoy the premium in cocktails, and I enjoy the senior neat.
Okay.
Because I probably drink, since it's such high proof, for every 2 I would drink for a premium, I drink 1.
Yeah.
Very slow the senior. But when I'm cooking on the rocks, if I'm grilling, if I want to kind of take my time, sangria is good. French 75.
Oh yeah.
That's for the ladies out there. They love that drink. But yeah, usually it depends. If I'm smoking a cigar, old fashioned for sure, or young fashioned, not old fashioned. Yeah.
You got to stay on brand.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Have you been to any speakeasies in Chicago?
Oh yeah. I'm a speakeasy. A good friend of mine, Melanie. We have a speakeasy scrapbook.
Okay.
Or all the ones we want to go to. in the city. And
we just had our holiday party in December at a place called Room 13.
Okay.
Have you been there?
Haven't heard about it though.
It's neat. It's we rented out the whole speakeasy. You fit like 30, 40 people in there. So we had a private, intimate event, knock on the door, password and all that jazz. And, old school radio vibe, low ceilings. And I'm a big fan of speakeasy myself.
That's the...
Do you guys, are you guys in Untitled by chance?
Yes. Untitled, Arbeya, Lazy Bird, Bordel, Bernard's.
Okay, so you guys are where you're right where you need to be.
3 dots and was it 3 doors and
3 dots and a dash.
We're there. Yeah. Franklin Room.
Oh, okay.
I think it's on Lake, not Lake.
I'm thinking of the one in what's under Green Door Tavern. Is it when you go into the Green Door Tavern and you go down the stairwell, there's a big mural-sized painting, and then behind the painting there's
I think I know, but
the
I haven't
Drifter.
been there yet.
It might be the Drifter.
That's a good one.
All right, listeners, if I'm mistaken, comment me the right speakeasy we're talking about in the comments, and let us know where you want to see Bull Young next, because we're obviously fans of not only Chicago but all the different speakeasies and places you can enjoy a nice cocktail.
Love speakeasies. This is like, I'm a very nostalgic guy.
Yeah.
Right. So I like to eat and drink at places where, Frank Sinatra will go eat at.
Oh, yeah.
Before and after a show type of thing. So, because 9 times out of 10, I'm always dressed like this.
I mean, you're ready for a big band night at Green Mill on Thursdays.
Yeah, absolutely. Dinner at Bavette's downstairs at the Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, man, old soul.
So thinking about, Chicago celebrities and history, do you have a guest alive or deceased that you would like to enjoy a dinner with?
From Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so many.
Like if you're at one of these speakeasies and you got a young fashioned and you're sitting there with someone iconic, just telling them about your life story, who would that be?
Sam Cooke.
Sam Cooke?
Yeah.
Okay, good choice.
Yeah, he was the man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
hang out with Sam, that'd be good.
This has been a great conversation. I got 2 last questions for you before we wrap here. For the Scorpion Nest podcast, who's someone you'd like to see as a future guest on the show? So we're trying to highlight community service, Chicago history. So any Chicago people that you'd like to highlight or you'd love to see an episode on?
Have you had any athletes on here yet?
No, we're young. We're building the brand. So you're I think you'll be episode 2 when we release it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's good to know. Let me see. Who would be good? Got a lot of musician friends.
You know Nathan Graham by chance?
I have. We've met once in passing.
I saw him over at a place up in Avondale called Sleeping Village, and I think he'd be great on the podcast because he's got that bluesy sound to him, and he's a true Chicago guy as well. So,
well, he's another chef, but Chef Joe from Rosemary.
Okay,
good guy.
Yeah. Well, make sure to tag him in the content here, and we'll see if we can get him on the pod.
Oh, good friend of mine, James Brown. He's the owner of Devon Steakhouse.
Okay.
He would be perfect. He's hip hop guy, nightclub owner, all that stuff, and he knows his stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah.
James Brown. Yeah.
You're all welcome on the show. We'll get connected after this, and we'll see if we can get the scheduling right. But I'm happy to have those guys on, and for the audience that wants to not only learn more about your bourbon but follow your journey, where can they find you?
So www.bullyoungbourbon.com for the bourbon side. Chef Danny Bullock on all social media platforms.
Excellent.
And you can see cookbooks coming out in July, August, and doing a series on social media called Rhythm and Bourbon, where I pick a song off a vinyl record and pair it with one of the tapas recipes from the books.
That's such a fascinating concept. Like, I don't think people are really thinking on that level of pairing audio with, I mean, you're integrating all these different senses. Like for me and our cigar pairings, it's usually just been like the tobaccos and the bourbons and like the small bites, but like making a concerted effort to include audio, so unique.
Yeah, because I think, every good night out always includes those 3. Good food, good bourbon, good music. good to go.
You nailed it.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're going to put all the info in the show notes for you guys. If you aren't watching this live, go ahead and like, subscribe, share, comment, all the things that help the channel grow. And Chef Danny, it's been an absolute pleasure. So thanks for coming on the show.
Anytime, man. Thank you.
All righty.